What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me. Happy Friday. Guys, if you are new to the channel, make sure you like, share, most importantly, subscribe. Hit the notification bell to stay in contact with all our platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn. And guys, you can check us on all audio platforms. Just to name a few: Spotify, Anchor, Podbean, Podchaser, Buzzsprout, Good Pods, Apple Pods, Google Pods, Google Music, Amazon Music. Obviously, guys, y'all can check us out. And also iHeartRadio, and many more platforms. I just can't name them all. But, guys, it's Friday. It's Buzzing With Marlowe Day. Also, guys, I want to give a late happy birthday to my bro, Dre on Wheels from the... All right. But happy birthday, bro. Also, guys, like we just said, commission talks. We took a week off this week. We will be back live, well and ready to go with my boy Dre on Wheels from the 1130 podcast, my boy Eric the Joker, and we have big news to reveal next week regarding commission talks. I think we're in the process of almost making our season finale for this year. So definitely a lot of big plans going on with that. But also, guys, I want to do a quick shout out to all the podcasters out there. Shout out to my boy Brian B from the web show. Shout out to Hendrix. My boy is killing it on I Know You Hear Me podcast. My boys from the Dirty Heels podcast, the Wrestling DeLorean podcast, the Debate podcast. Just a good selection. My boy Zordon, Dre, my boy Blackheart from Off the Top Ropes podcast, his crew, man. Shout out to them, the fam, the mob. Guys, shout out to all you podcasters. Shout out to every single one of you. Also, shout out to the guys that do these live streams each and every week. I give you all the props. I try to do it. Also, guys, I want to give a thank y'all to anyone that joined in on the live stream with us. Thank you to my boy Brian B for coming on and having fun with us on that. Just watching the Art of Pro Wrestling, getting the mindset of how I watched it and stuff like that. So that was really cool. Stellar show. But guys, also I want to give a major shout out to everyone that supports the pod by going to getting the tanks, getting the awesome merch, man. Awesome merch, our hats, everything. All you have to do, guys, is go to our bonfire shop. That's right, guys. Bonfire / Buzzing with Marlowe. Ladies and gentlemen, you can get awesome merch. Like, here's the website itself, guys. Here's the store. You can get the classic baseball cap, the pom-pom beanie. I know the winter time's coming. The cuff beanie. You can also get the trucker hat. You could also get the snapback hat. And you see you have so many options and colors. You have our V-necks. Obviously, the lovely, famous Razorback tank tops for the ladies. The 3/4 sleeves, popular with the children. We have plenty of options. The women's V-neck. You have plenty of colors. The premium tank top, obviously wearing right now. Obviously, our pullover hoodie. You have different colors. All these colors, man, pretty awesome. The trailing long. That's a very popular favorite. Obviously, there's so many options on the colors, guys. You have a lot of selections, as y'all can tell, man. Selections. Obviously, we got the V-neck. Let's see what I can see the colors. You can get blue. Y'all can also get red. And, of course, you can get white. And, obviously, you can just sit here and play with it right here. This is a real cool. These are very popular favorites. Can get some awesome clothes, awesome merch. Also, guys, it supports the podcast and makes us grow, man. So greatly appreciate every single one of the people that purchase our merch and all that stuff. It's just awesome. Also, guys, I want to give a big shout out to my boys from DCCW, Steve Pender, Vanessa Pender, They do awesome job promoting the upcoming shows, and they do a great job in Baker County. That is a big focal area for them. They've got a big show coming up December 10th for beatdowns and guys. There's going to be a great group of guys, great group of gals that are going to be performing for you in front of y'all. And there's some personal favorites, as y'all can see. The CYN is the DCCW heavyweight champion, Jake Logan. Cha-Cha Charlie, the Kentis Bros, the tag team champs. Obviously, you can see that's a big stellar one right there. You could see all these awesome talent, and even that little penguin right there supposedly is supposed to be there. So check them out at Baker County Fairgrounds, and who knows, I might just pop up. Not saying I'm not saying I'm not either. Gotta see when my schedule's free. But guys, welcome. This is episode 114. Going up. We're obviously everyone's recuperating from that crazy Thanksgiving festivities, and now we're on the road to Christmas 22. So it's been a crazy year. A lot of crazy things. Even this, guys, I gotta do it. Even though it's my boy's birthday Wednesday, he's a big Ravens fan, so I gotta do it. That's right, man. My God, Mr. 16, man. Who promised guy that's going to take us to the promised land, gave us a big win in Jacksonville last Sunday against the Baltimore Ravens. I don't care, guys. I don't care about our record. You know what? We have only lost under 8 points this whole season. Yes, I know wins and wins and loss and loss, but I'm very proud of what this team is bringing. They are bringing a lot of freaking comebacks in this, man. I'm so looking forward to next season. I know this season's basically done, but you know we got 6 more games, and you know what? If we keep bringing the energy that I have right here, that we see right here, man, Trevor Lawrence, you the guy. You gonna be the guy, man. Just keep it going, keep it flowing, man. And Duval had to get one in there. But guys, enough of that. It is episode 114, and I know everybody's excited to know who's my guest today. Today, guys, my guest is Christen Stovall, author of fantasy novels, guys. The way she got into this, she went from starting to be an actor and became an author, obviously, after the tragic death of her husband. Basically, a tragedy made her have her true calling. And guys, I'm not going to waste any more time. We're going to discuss a lot of awesome things. It's going to be a lot of fun chat. Down's going to go, guys, and we will be joined with Christen Stovall. And ladies and gentlemen, that countdown starts right after this. See you in a bit.
With Batsy. It was just last night, as the entire country was tuning into its favorite talk show.
You simply makes you a stranger.
V MAL. It contains strong language and is intended only for mature audiences.
Don't even know why I'm watching, cause it ain't funny when you right here. But I know you're going away, so I'm watching so we can stay here. I heard you trying to protect myself. I ain't making excuses, I'm just letting you know I understand why you live. It was toxic back for your help. You trying so hard to love me, but I really couldn't love myself. I needed your patience, baby, with times of whole time I really felt like I wasn't enough. Deleted all of your pictures cause I can stomach the fact. After all that we've been through, my baby's not coming back. I swear that I'll go down crying while I'm riding this train. I swear that I'll go down crying while I'm riding this train. Got more words this. Day one popped out, ain't nobody in this motherfucker fighting me. These bitches all in my DM, texting them back was good, but I ain't really trying to see them.
Out, he said he accepted, and you know what? Nobody wants to see it. Because nobody remembers the American prodigy. All this history, and nobody cares. But if you could find one, that's all I'm asking. If you could find one promotion that wants to put this on, I'll be there. I will be. There's no running. There's no running. Not at all. I will be there. Right in the center of the ring. You versus me. And then when I beat you, you'll understand that maybe wrestling wasn't for you. Maybe this is a good new career change. You're a podcaster. You're an influencer, social media.
What's up? 38 pounds.
right now. All right, guys, I'm joined with Christen Stovall. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It is, what a week. What a week.
And it's only
Yeah, that's the sad part. It's only crazy more and more every time.
right. Mondays.
Work week is like I work Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then I'm home for 4 days, but I'm basically a stay-at-home dad. Like I legit am with my daughter the entire time. My 3-year-old controls everything for that whole 4-day period. Like my wife goes to work and then she comes home. How's your day? I'm like, it happens.
Yeah, I have a 3-year-old nephew, and I heard somebody call them three-nagers.
You know that saying, terrible twos? It's got to be atrocious threes. Terrible twos
really
was nothing.
threes are more
Atrocious
intense.
threes.
Yeah.
My daughter thinks she knows everything. She's independent, and she's only 3. I'm like, oh, this is going to be more harder to do now. All right, interesting.
I used to work in like childcare, especially in the toddler age range. And I would go in that 2-year-old room over the 3-year-old room any day of the week because 2-year-olds are still like, there's enough.
They're still
baby in
learning,
them
but they're
still.
there. Yeah.
But 3-year-olds, man, they are active and they think they're in charge.
My daughter, I combine my daughter. She looks like her mom, but she has my energy. And every day, I literally almost have my mom on a text message saying, I'm sorry for whatever I did when I was younger. Because my child, everybody's like, man, you're in the gym, you keep up with stuff. I was like, yeah, I got to keep up my 3-year-old. Like, legit, that's what I got to do.
Right, it's the toddler.
My daughter is like a mini road runner, and she's just all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny. Like, my wife, she loves sleep. Like, I joke about it. My wife is a professional sleeper. My daughter is the whole opposite. Like, everybody's like, man, she looks so like Samantha. I was like, yeah, except that trait, because literally that's what it comes out of me. And it's like, she'll look at me and she's like, I can't deal with her. I'm like, what are you going to do? Go to sleep? Like, force her to go with you. Like, seriously, I need a break.
Right. Yeah,
Don't do it to me.
I have book characters, and I'm just in awe of parents who can keep up with their toddlers because,
It's
I
crazy.
used to work in childcare.
It's a beautiful thing, though. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's just like it does take a lot out of you. It does take a lot out of you.
Yeah,
but Christen, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am Christen Stovall. I'm the author of the Song of Souls trilogy and the prequel to that, The Twisted Path, and the newly completed series, The Fae Touch Chronicles. And I'm a self-proclaimed nerd and proud of it.
We all are in our own minds.
Exactly. And nerdy has become cool, so it's fine. And, I'm just like everyone else trying to make sense of this crazy world.
It's a tough job.
It is. I do a lot of escaping to fantasy, so I'm in the right line of work for that.
There you go. So, have you always been passionate about writing books since ever, or is it just kind of like fell in your place?
No, I started out passionate about acting, and I really wanted to be an actress. I did a lot of stuff on stage, musicals, just straight plays. Loved it. What I started to realize, though, was I wanted to tell my own stories. I didn't want to just do an interpretation of someone else's story. I wanted to create my own world and my own characters. And I started doing it just for fun in my late teens. And then I did the thing where in my early 20s, I got out in the real world and I met a young man who was, amazing and wonderful. And we got married. And then writing took a back seat until a year and a half into the marriage, he ended his own life after struggling with depression and chronic pain.
Sorry to hear about that.
Yeah. So at that point, I was left going, well, now what? Because the life I had planned was over with, because, you know, it was with him. We were going to have kids and all of those things, and none of it happened. And I, bit by bit, as I was getting past the point of having to remind myself to breathe, I started to turn back toward fantasy and just envisioned this scene where a young woman was saying goodbye to the soul of the person she loved. And that just sort of developed into a concept for a story, which then became a trilogy and a prequel and expanded into a whole different world. And then I decided to take a little break from that to co-write an unrelated series with a friend who's also a published author, Jennifer Sanders. And now here I am 8 books later.
Great. Sorry to hear about that. Like I use this metaphor. Like I've been on tons of podcasts and I express my story about stuff that I have dealt with. Like everybody looks at me and go, "How the hell you got in the world of pro wrestling?" And I told them because it's something regarding with my son. It was definitely that was my rock bottom moment. I could literally tell anybody like that was the most traumatizing moment I ever had in my life is when I'm at my great grandmother's funeral. I looked at a comment on it and I was at my friend's place because I went over to my friend's house after I left there because it was just a rough day. And I went over there and I was on his computer. I looked at Facebook and it showed a comment saying, "Glad y'all made it home safe."
That gives one pause.
Glad you made it home safe. So I look at my buddy. I said, either you're going with me to that apartment or I'm going by myself. He went with me. The apartment was completely empty.
Whoa.
Completely empty. There was a hole in the wall. There was a pile of stuff, which I found out was all my old clothes from high school and stuff. Like I used to be a really popular kid in basketball and stuff like that. All my achievements were in that pile, bleached.
Oh my god.
Like it was all bleached. Like I had clothes over there just in case because I had to go over there every other week because I worked 3 days a week and I would go there after I got off of work to go spend time with him. And his speech therapies and stuff like that were early in the morning on Tuesday. So I would never even get sleep because I work Monday nights. I work all night. So I would get off like at 5 or 6 in the morning. I'm going straight over there so I can go to his speech therapy and stuff like that. Not even sleeping. So I would have clothes there just so I can easily change into just be over there with him and kind of like help that process still for him because I didn't want him to ever think like, okay, you know, I only have daddy here and mommy this way. Like we were in a room together with him just to kind of like keep that look. And when those were bleached, and then I looked at more stuff, all the stuff that I recently got him, which I thought she told me it didn't come in. They were all tarnished, destroyed and stuff in his room. His room was completely empty, like his crib, everything. I didn't hear from him for 8 months. Didn't hear from him for 8 months. I had to take her to court just so I could get rights back to my son to say, hey, I'm his dad. Hey, I want to be in his life. And needless to say, everybody knows how the courtroom thing goes. I was really in a depression for a good, and I mean good, 3 or 4 months. And it was right before Christmas. So I'm now just enjoying Christmas again. Like I legit had a issue regarding December. And it was not even 2 weeks before Christmas when this all went down. And it was tough. I had to learn a lot of things. I was depressed a lot. The one moment that made me realize I was in a 3-month depression. So it sounds like a movie, but this is what really happened. And it sucks that I'm saying it now, but I do this also to help people aware, like, hey, if you have this problem, it can always be solved. You could always solve it. And you don't have to be a statistic. And this is one way I found out was I used to drive on stoplights. I legit would stop at a green light and drive on red light. So 3 months straight, nothing happened. So I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm vulnerable. Like it's making me do it more constantly. So one night I got out of I think it was at the gym or I was at work. After I got off of work or something like that, I drove on a red. Speeding on, I saw a 16-wheeler. So it was either my choice to either head on or turn. And no hesitation, I turned because I panicked. Like I just turned. So it made me sit back and go, you know what? There's a purpose. There is a purpose. I can find something out of this. And it's not been the greatest. I'm not going to lie to people. Oh, yeah, you know, everything went happy dandy. You know, we communicate, da, 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 da. I got my son back. And that's the only thing that made me positive into it. I get him 5 times out of the year, but those 5 times out of the year, he knows his daddy does a lot for him. He knows his daddy's taking him to Disney World for his Christmas coming up. Like he knows all these cool things that we're doing. I don't want to make him seem like, oh, you know, daddy takes me to this and daddy does this, but it's like,
Daddy's the fun one.
yeah, like, but it's like, I got to do these things because I don't get a lot of moments that a lot of parents get. Like how I told you, I'm watching my daughter all the time because I choose that because I didn't get that with my son. My son was only 3 when he got taken away from me and stuff like that. So I didn't get to live that type of age limit with him. So with her, I'm living vicariously through that. So it's even sadder. I have 2 kids, but I'm literally experiencing that lifestyle with my daughter, like raising wise and stuff like that. And it's been kind of a different transition with me because I remember when I thought, okay, this is going to be a walk in the park, and stuff was not the same as it was when Matthew was a baby compared to Annabelle. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is a different transition. Like I used to think like
backpacking hike.
It was like, holy cow, like my daughter, and I used to think, what was the difference between, you know, girls and boys with the babies? I'm like, okay, obviously there's one reason. No, not even close. My son, I didn't do it, but I'm just saying as a joke. You could put my son somewhere, you fall asleep, and you know he's still there. My daughter, she even if she wasn't walking or cross, she's gonna roll around somewhere to get out of where she is. She can't stay in the same spot. Like I don't joke around when I call her a road runner. Like she legit cannot stand still. And I joke like she's literally me. Like she literally cannot sit still for nothing. And it was just so eye-opening, and I was just like, holy cow, like it is a big difference. And like my wife now, like God forbid on her, like when I got into pro wrestling was because when I got out of that courtroom, I was upset. I was angry, constant. And it was either me go do something stupid, might have made me smile a little bit, which is sad to say, but and it would help my pain for a second, but me being locked up would not done anything. Like I wouldn't be in my son's life for this if I made that choice. So decided, got a friend hit me up, talked about this thing, and I was like, all right, why don't you decide to go back to pro wrestling? You did something with that in Orlando, go do it again. You got you know you need to go to wrestling school, go do that. And I did it for 6 years and stuff, and my son bragged about it nonstop. Thought I was like some superhero. And it was just, and that's kind of like how that story happened with that. And it's just crazy to see how everything has transpired now, because like how you just said, it got your passion back for something that you thought you loved is now writing books and stuff. Instead of you being in the camera trying to act, you're now an author. You're now successing at that. So how was that transition? Because were you always involved with writing, even when you were doing the acting ordeal? Because I know some people, they write their own little skits just to warming themselves up to get them prepared to be on the camera. I know a little bit of it from my wrestling background, but that was with a mask and stuff. I didn't have to worry about all that,
It was always the storytelling I was interested in. It didn't actually click into my head that I wanted to write. I wanted to tell stories. So I was always sort of daydreaming and imagining stories and things like that, but I didn't start really writing or even considering it until I was in my late teens.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm really glad I did. I love what I'm doing.
Yeah. So, like, is there any favorite fantasy novels that you kind of made it seem like, but in your own way? Was there kind of any motivation on this?
Well, I'm really influenced by Tolkien and Lord of the Rings. There's also an author.
I had a vibe with that one. I had a vibe with that. Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, love it so much. And then there's an author named Juliet Marlier, and I really enjoy her work as well. It's a little bit different, but I just think that she has this amazing way of bringing stories to life and characters to life. So those are the two that I would say like most deeply impacted me in terms of books. But I grew up loving like The Princess Bride, and there's a movie called Willow with Val Kilmer and Warwick Davis, and I love that movie. And so fantasy was always sort of there. And my parents were big readers, so it's just I think a lot of stuff kind of all stacked in to create this perfect storm of an imagination that like never shuts up.
It's like an escape zone. Like legit, you can escape reality and stuff like that. That's one thing
until I want to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden it's like I really just want to escape the imagination so I can go to sleep.
See, I just had a friend and he does like professional sushi and stuff like that. And he talks about he rarely ever sleeps because more sleep, the less ideas you can advance up and get into that. So did you kind of have that mindset at first? Or are you kind of like, nah, I like sleep, I need to just, like sometimes like I'm literally like a night owl. Like people joke about me all the time. Like if you see my posts and stuff on Instagram and stuff like that, I'm doing late morning workouts every single day. Like I cannot go to sleep unless I work out. Like those things is just like that's my comfort. Like I just said, I work 3 days. I'm home with my daughter for 4. So my only time to myself is these podcasts and into the gym. That is all I get.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. It's more
especially when you work at nighttime. It's like, hey, my wife can't interrupt me in my workouts because it's like 2 or 3 in the morning, so they're not going to bother me. And then my daughter should be in bed, so I shouldn't have a problem.
I know the word should. It sounds like maybe isn't always. So, yeah, my creativity just really kicks in at night. And then, I'm just laying there thinking up like conversations between characters or scenarios. And it's just when my brain clicks on, and I'm a complete night owl. My father was the same way. My grandmother was also a night owl. So it kind of runs in the family. But even when I was a baby, apparently I hated taking naps. I think there's just this real fear I'm like going to miss something or I'm wasting some time. I mean, that being said, I'm not a morning person. Like I'll fall asleep around 2 or 3 and then I'll get up when I'm ready to be human.
When you're ready to be human. I like that. I like that. That's the best answer I've heard.
Anyway, but there's that level of don't talk to me until I've spoken to you, because prior to that moment, I'm not rational. I'll just sort of glare at you,
I'll wink at you. If I wink twice, you're okay. If I wink once, you back away. Don't do it.
If I've got a cup of coffee, I'm probably safe. Assuming I've had at least some of it.
Hey, there you go. Hey, that's a process. Like I love how you said you're not a morning person, but you don't go to bed until like really late at night. Like that's a weird thing with me. I could go to bed say like at 2 or 3 in the morning. I still find a freaking way to wake up at 7 or 8, which is still weird to me. I literally talk to myself. I'm like, did I even go to sleep? Like, what in the
hate
world?
those nights. I hate when you're laying there going, "Wait, was I asleep? Or was
It's
I
not,
not?"
especially if you like have like a little snooze. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm terrible in the car. I'm terrible in the car. Like I have to have a GPS for so many things because I literally will fall asleep in the car. That is
Oh
really
my
the only
god.
time I ever really fall asleep in the car. Is it's like in the car. If I'm riding with somebody, don't expect me to keep you awake. Like there's no way I'm staying up.
Right.
Like I just
Right.
cannot just sit there and be like, I'm dozing. And then, and my favorite one is because my wife, she gets car sickness, and I never even knew what that was until I started dating her. And it's a legit thing. Like she
Oh yeah.
basically has to drive us all the time. So it's like I think I've drove. I think maybe 6 times, maybe five. No, that's a lie. I think it's 5 times. 5 times since we've been married. Since we've been together for almost 6 years now, I think it's only 5 times I've drove in a car with her in the passenger. And like my parents used to pick on me so bad about it, and like they didn't know what really car sickness was until she rode with them one time, and she was like about to just all over the
Yeah.
place. And they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
"Oh, take the seat of our new car and just go ahead and drive it. Why don't you? You're not throwing up in here."
Yeah, yeah. No, I get car sick as well. Like I don't have to be in the driver's seat, but like if I try to read anything or if like I look at my phone because I get a message, I'll get car sick from doing that. And it's like, ooh, you
That's
know.
crazy. That
So
is insane.
it's not
I
fun.
never knew it was a thing. I thought it was like in the head and stuff, but oh no, 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 no. And then my wife gets mad. She's like, "Do you ever stay awake?" And I'm like, "I didn't even sleep. What are you talking about?" I was just like, doze off. What do you mean? I've been up the whole time. What's up? What?
Exactly.
So let's talk about the first book that you did.
Right.
What I know that had to be a very emotional book for you because, like how you just said, you basically just had that very tragic thing regarding your husband and stuff like that. And this kind of made you embrace it. I think this kind of like was like your personal journal in a fictional story.
Yeah, in some ways it was. My husband was very well known locally, and it's not a big town that we live in. And he did commit suicide in a public place. So there was a level uh, of things being in the public eye and being very uncomfortable, and it really helped give me a way to say this is what I felt, this is what it was like, but within the safety of those characters weren't me. They weren't my
Hmm.
husband. This wasn't this world. And it just it enabled me to sort of work through that and to say goodbye and really to create a legacy that we didn't get to have through children.
Hmm.
So there are elements in that first book that are directly related to what happened, just directly inspired by what
Hmm.
happened. The beginning starts with his death and she screams, and that happened when they told me that, yes, the body found was my husband. I did scream like that, and I remember that moment in a very sort of uh distant and confusing way. I mean, at this point I had started like physically going into shock, and so the memories are kind of hazy and disjointed,
Hmm.
but I remember screaming and the feeling. It was just this immense feeling, and it was like just this pressure that was building up that I had to release. And the scream just came out, and that's the book. And then there are a few little elements like the nickname that she calls him. That was something that I called my husband. Uh, but I really did. I was very careful. I wanted them to be separate people because there was a
Hmm.
point at which, like, if they were me and my husband, it was just too much. It was too
Right, right,
intimate.
right.
It was too
Yeah,
big,
yeah, yeah.
and I knew that it needed to go further than just the first book. So it it had to go much more in depth in world
Hmm.
building and character creation. And I didn't get any magical abilities when my husband died. like the character does. She becomes one of the Soulbound, which is an order of women who can heal magically through their connections to their soulmates who have passed on. So they can still see and speak with their soulmate, and through this bond that they share, their souls are connected. They can then heal people in the living world. I didn't get any cool powers like that. Unfortunately, it could have been a really awesome superhero origin story if I did, but no, you know. So that's kind of where it starts off, and it really, on a lot of levels, deals with the idea of holding on to the past, but then you can also embrace the future and choosing whether you allow something bad to make you a victim or to be a survivor of that bad thing. So it deals with a lot of that, and just processing who you are through grieving and through having to reassess your life plan. So there's a lot of those little elements hidden in and woven through the classic good versus evil fantasy story, which I'm a sucker for. So
I like that. I like how you said, you had to write more books on it and stuff like that. Is it easier to write more of a series than just a regular novel? Because you could continue embrace that fictional background for more series, or is it easier for that one book because it's like a one and done thing? Now you could do many more options.
I enjoy world building and I enjoy character development, so I tend to like to stay with characters for longer than one book. That being said, the prequel to the trilogy is one book that takes place about 200 years before. So it's very, while connected to the trilogy, separate. So it's sort of its own one-off book, but it's like 600 pages. So I had to stick with them for a while. But I tend to really enjoy the process of standing in the same world and playing with the same characters in different scenarios for more than one book. But if the story isn't there and the character's story doesn't call for it, then it's a different case. Like I would just I don't stay with them to the point that I'm just sort of rehashing things and it becomes repetitive and not engaging for the reader.
Okay. You'd have had a good job in wrestling. I'll tell you that right now. Like, I love how when you talk about like storytelling and stuff like that, that's what got me so passionate about wrestling. Because my character, if anybody didn't know, I was an American Prodigy. I was literally a superhero. Like, I lived by that character. Like, all that stuff that was going on with me being Warren Marlowe, me being that Superman type character was just iconic to me. I felt loved. I felt like people really loved that guy more than they did me. And it took me a long time to realize, hey, I can be just as good as Warren Marlowe as I was with American Prodigy. And that's kind of like how I love how, like, when you talk about that, that's kind of like how Buzzing with Marlowe transitioned, because when I first started, I don't know if you saw the first logo, it has the cartoon character with the hands up. Like, I legit rode that coattail at first because I was like, hey, I just paid all this money for that logo. I'm going to use it because, I mean, I got hurt. I got hurt in wrestling. I got hurt after wrestling 6 years and stuff like that. I got really badly hurt. And then I had my daughter. And the moment I realized that it was time to start being careful what I'm doing is when I had my not even 3-month-old daughter and I could barely hold her because my neck was so stiff. I couldn't hold her. Like, I was afraid I might drop her. And I couldn't do this or anything like that. It might have been 4 or 5 days, but it legit felt so much longer to me because I have a background with my mom. My mom's been having neck problems since she was 16 years old. And I remember one time my dad said, as good as I'm doing, like, my dad was my biggest critic ever. Like, my dad, I never felt like I could please my dad. Like, my dad was proud of me because I was in a good background with sports, everything like that. But my dad was just so tough on me. Like, I legit never heard, good job, son. Like, if I heard a good job, son, my heart just like dropped to the ground. Like, what'd you say? Like, you want to repeat yourself again, buddy? Like, like, when you're at that, your first time playing baseball and you finally get to hit that damn ball and you just wham. holy cow, I hit it. And like, I didn't strike out. Like that type of moment, like it's just in shock. Like you didn't expect it. And I got that with him with wrestling. And that made me even go more further with it and stuff like that. I had a great life with it, great achievement. But my dad made a comment and it really stuck with me. I couldn't get it out of my system because I was doing all those crazy moves because obviously I'm getting bigger, popular and stuff like that. So got to upgrade a little bit. You want to get on TV, you got to do these things. And my dad literally said, as good as you are doing, you're going to end up like your mom. And that made me so mad. Like, I was just like, you can't just accept anything I do, stuff like that. Like, I legit was upset really bad. And it affected me in one of my matches. And I remember the realization, I was on top of a ladder. It was a great crowd. The match was great. I mean, credit to everybody that was in the match. I'm on top of this ladder reaching for this belt, knowing I'm about to have to fall off of it in a second too. And I'm looking at him like, what the hell am I doing up here? Like, what is my purpose of this? And I'm about to fall off this damn ladder. Like, just do the match. You got to keep falling. Hey, climb up, come up, climb up, climb up. Keep doing, keep teasing that in, whatever. And I literally I was not happy. I legit was upset with a lot of things going on. I was banged up. I was hurt all the time. I realized my bulletproof mode AP was great, but Warren Marlowe took every possible bit of that crap, and I could barely get out of bed at times. Like my neck, I've never had neck problems, and it was scaring me with that. And I never could get that out of my head. Like my dad literally just in my head the whole time. I mean, asleep, dreaming, you're going to end up like your mom. And like legit had flashlights of my mom when she had to go through that and stuff. And I was just like, ah. So I went to the doctor and I was about to sign something and it was probably going to change my life a little bit. And they told me, hey, man, we can't pass you. We cannot pass you. Your brain's compared to a certain age that you shouldn't be. Like I was only 28 years old and it was comparing me to like a very elder brain. I mean, I'm not saying it in an offensive way or anything, but for me as a young age, that is not something that you should look like. And they were comparing me to like NFL players and stuff and said, you might need to look at something else. And
oh my goodness, yeah.
Sad thing is I had my wife in there. So yeah, you know, that choice ain't changing. So bye. You're gone. You're done. You're done.
Yeah.
You might as well just throw that paper and just rip that side because you were going to sign something happily right in front of us. Say, hey, we done something. Nope, that got ripped. Gone. Bye-bye. And so I started doing the podcast thing just because of COVID and all that. And then, like I said, I transitioned from just being American Project from season 1 and 2 to like the new logo where it had like this. That's embracing me. That was embracing Warren Marlowe, not just, oh, that's the American Project. Like I even acknowledged it in my episodes, like, yeah, I'm the American Project. Like I was sitting there just thinking, okay, people are just not, they listen to this because it's American Project on here. But no, man, they were talking about Warren and stuff like that. So got the logos changed, everything like that to make it to fully where it's about me and my story and just focused on the guest. Teach the lessons and stuff like that. It's just really cool to see how this grows because like I'm looking at it like we're filming like this and the crazy thing is people are going to be watching it. People are going to be watching this all over the world, all over the stuff. It's just crazy to believe how things happen like that. So I do want to talk about the first book. How hard was that for the editing standpoint, stuff like that? Because with me editing this, when I first came out talking about my son's situation, I did not want people to know about that. That's how I embraced from me being the American Project to myself was because I was very hesitant on what I was revealing. And a lot of people can read your BS. They can look at it and I'm sitting there thinking like, you know, they could probably Google me and they'll find out more stuff than they need to know. So I came out and said what I needed to say, but when I edit, I was instantly, after I hit end on that recording. I went back and tried to edit as much as I could. And my wife listened to it, and I said, "Does that sound bad?" And she said, "No. Honestly, you might bring a message and might help somebody." And I was so scared about that episode. I was so scared.
Yeah.
It became one of the most popular listens because they saw how vulnerable I was. They saw the real reality of who I was in that reaction. And I just, no filter after that, I guess. I mean, after you say something like that, you can't go back.
Yeah. Genie's out of the bottle now.
Secret's gone.
Yeah, to hand your work over to a professional editor whose job it is not to tell you that you're great, but to tell you what you're doing wrong and what you need to fix. That's not easy. You really have to check your ego at the door and just you have to read these things that are hard to read from the understanding that this person is trying to help you, because if they don't point it out, a reader will. So they're trying to save you that. So that's hard, and it's hard when it had to do so much with my own personal journey and my emotions. But I'm really glad that I did. It forced me to become a stronger writer, to look at my weaknesses head on and ask myself how I could fix them. And I just feel like it helped me to develop as a creator. And the books are they're doing pretty well. That people seem to be responding, and as difficult as that was initially, I don't regret it for a second. But it's always scary when you take something you're passionate about and put it out there for the public, for the world to consume, because once you put it out there, it's no longer just yours. Yeah, it's out there. It's no longer just yours. You can't do anything. You can't control how people feel about it or what they do with it. You have
all you can do is go in a cave. You can go in a cave and hope that nobody knows where you are.
And then you do get to where you're very sort of like, okay, this is what the public is allowed to see and be a part of, and then this is just for me. This is what I just share with the people I care about, who I know face to face, because you have to have those lines. You have to have that time that's just for you, especially when you have a job that's in the public eye. It's just so important to have those elements that are just for you, that this is for your family, for yourself, because otherwise you can just get so lost in it and overwhelmed by it. So
say like family and stuff like that, was any of them like hesitant for you to promote that first book?
Oh no, they were all completely on board. They were all really into it. They were happy to see me
happy
with direction. Yeah, happy with direction, doing something that made me feel like I had a purpose again, like I wasn't just surviving. And so they were all really into it and really supportive. I think it was harder for them when things started to transition from, this is my little thing that I'm doing by myself and my first book, to, oh, this is a career and she's working a lot of hours, because you're never entirely off work, I have different obligations now with like interviews and working with other people on books and doing in-person events. Like, my schedule is crazy, and so there was a lot of growing pains with that transition, and me having to be like, no, I'm not just avoiding you. I started just showing them my schedule on my phone, and they were like, oh, okay, I get it.
Instead, you gotta do that sometimes, because some people are like, oh, you're just blowing me off. I'm like, no, like, here's what we got going on. Like, here.
Yeah. And then I've gotten to where, like, I'm like, okay, guys, I have 2 weeks where there's nothing scheduled. Let's do something now. We got to schedule it now before something else gets scheduled. So come on, just come on,
Yep. I agree with you.
So,
I love how you said that. Yeah.
It's a learning
It's
curve.
crazy. You can't please them. You can't please everybody. That's one thing I had to learn in the podcast. Like, I'm more worried about anybody else around me. Like, I tell people all the time, I'd give my shirt off my back for somebody.
Yeah.
And I literally would put people first before me. And that's something I've had to learn with this podcast. Like, you gotta work it on your management time, what you believe you can do and stuff like that. Like, I tell people all the time, like, everybody that talks about doing podcasts, and I see some of them doing like 3 or 4 episodes a week. I'm like, no. I was like, everybody's like, how you do one a week? I said, think it this way. You could promote it better. I have to put it on audio platforms as well as the video. So that's easier to do.
Right.
Instead of working on 3 episodes, how in the world am I promoting all 3 of those on the audio and video and all that stuff? And people are just going to sit there and look at you and go like, geez, man, like, give me a break. I want to listen to one before the third one. Like, come on, help me out.
Exactly. You got to keep.
So I've learned, man. I've learned some of the things. Like, it's just some things I learned in wrestling that still valuable is less is more. And that's helped me not burn out or anything like that.
And being comfortable telling people no.
Yep.
That was something I really had to learn, was saying no and then sticking with it and not feeling like I was a bad person for it. It's setting up a boundary and making sure you're not giving more than you actually have to give.
That guilty conscience. It can be tough at times.
And you know, as a creator, like, I am my own worst enemy and my own biggest critic. Someone will say, "Oh, that was so good," and I'm just looking at it going, "Yeah, but did you see how many times I used that one word on that page?" You know, like, that's just, I get into those little details, and so they're just.
I love how you talk about that, because like so many people would ask me like, hey man, do you got any YouTube videos of your matches and stuff? I said, they're on there. I don't know how to watch them because I literally refuse to watch any of my matches because I would be the biggest critic to anything. Like, one of my worst matches I ever had was probably one of the best ones that fans love, because just the interaction to the crowd, they're like, man, when you did that and that was so cool. And I'm like, yeah, that wasn't planned. Like, I legit just jumped out of the open. Knew he was going to catch me. Like, there was just some things like I had to like think of, and I'm like, I felt bad, and I had to text the guy when somebody was watching the match, like, hey, they actually like this. And like, yeah, man, I'm getting great feedback on it. You know, that was good that you just jumped up and I looked at you and said, oh, I'll catch you. Well, let me fall back down. Like, literally, it's just like those things. And I tell people all the time, like, if I ever did a podcast with like guys that I wrestled with and stuff, I tell them the funniest thing is like the way when we're in the match, you're thinking we're beating each other up, we're doing all this, telling the story and all that. Right. We're basically having a conversation through the entire match. Like, I was known to be the prankster. Like, I legit would try to make you laugh because I can never get exposed because I'm wearing a mask. So no one can tell my facial expression. Like, I'll get the fans on that USA thing and I ain't got to worry about nothing else for the rest of the match. Like, I don't have to worry about them thinking I'm talking or nothing. Like, I got the USA chant, we're good to go. And the fans would just eat that alive. So when the heel was just picking me up and saying something funny, I was like, yeah, you know, those butter fingers you got going on or something like that. And he would just like burst into laughing. And so I get hit harder the next one.
You're a scene partner that likes to make your co-star.
Oh yeah, I would have fun with it. You got to have fun with this. And I never get exposed like because I'm wearing a mask. So you can't tell me that like there's so many matches. Like, I had to learn how to sell with facial expressions because obviously my face is covered. So I'm having to learn how to sell my head nonstop. That might be another reason with my neck. So it was so funny. Like, one guy was making a comment. He was beating me in the corner, and like fans are just like, oh my gosh, he must be hurt. This is terrible. I'm sitting there laughing because that's one reason why I had to wear a mask, because I did not know how to show expression. So like, if I'm getting beat up, I'm still smiling. Like, I loved it. Like, I've been watching wrestling since I was 3 years old, watching The Rock and all these guys. So me getting to say, hey, I'm actually a pro wrestler and stuff like this, this is awesome. And like one guy, he was chopping me. He's like, yeah, that's what your punk self gets. I'm just like, man, do it again. Like, let's go. Like, I'll sell it to keep it up. Like, it's just so funny. Like, people, I remember one guy, he tried so hard to just play that character. And I sat there and was laughing when he's chopping me. I mean, he had like one of those New Japan type chops. My freaking chest is just like somebody just took a belt and just welts all over my chest. And I'm sitting there laughing. I'm like, yeah, you hit like a monkey or something like that. And that guy's so mad. So he just sitting there, keep going. I'm just like, you burned up yet? But yeah, man, those are definitely the fun times. But like, I love how when you talk about the storytelling aspect stuff, like there's goods and bads to that, because now, as much as that fantasy is built up in that book, like how you just said, it's like 600 pages. Now you got to do another 600. Then you got to do another 600. Like, I want to know, like, how does that keep going? Like, what was the drive of that, and how's that motivation keep going more to invest into it?
Well,
600 pages.
The trilogy, none of them were that long. They were about half of that. But you've also got
holy cow.
Trilogy, so yeah, a continuing story. But
you gotta have at least 2 pictures if that's the case.
Right. With the prequel, it was very much kind of setting up the history of the world and setting up another country in the world. And there was information that needed to be in there for a book that I plan on writing a little bit later on that takes place after the trilogy, but in a different part of the world and with different characters. And it was just, that story was very complicated, but the way that it was structured, it all had to be one book. I do not typically write 600-page books. I mean, it's not quite, it's like a few pages less than 600, but it's more or less.
I give you props. 600 pages.
But also, in my defense, it was 2020 and there was a pandemic and everything was closed. And I didn't get to go to Disney World like I was supposed to, so I tortured characters, you know.
I make my own Disney World today.
Exactly, and it's going to be fun for no one but me.
All I wanted to do was see Mickey. Dag
it
nabbit.
was going to be my very first Disney World trip.
Really?
Yeah, and it had to
wow.
be postponed. I did get to go finally, and then like I got to go again, like 6 months later.
Did you go to the one in California or the one in Orlando?
Orlando.
Okay.
And I loved it. I loved it. So I was such a goober. I absolutely cried several times that first trip. I just like, I walk in and I'm like, oh, it's Disney World. Cinderella, you know. And then, but there weren't any character meet and greets the first time I got to go.
Right.
And then,
oh yeah, with the COVID thing, yeah.
Right. But then the second time I got to go, I got to meet Mickey and Cinderella and the princesses, and I went with my brother the second time because we both have birthdays in January. So he'd never been, and he was trying to be very cool and in his 20s, and you know, very cool for Disney World. But it got him. Got him in the end, and I also made him take me to go visit the Disney princesses. So that's a very good younger brother to take his older sister to go visit.
That's brave. That's brave.
yeah. Although I think Tiana fancied him. I think she's talking to him quite a bit.
She's trying to find a new prince out there.
Yeah.
I love how you talked about that because, like, before I met my wife, I haven't went to Disney World since I was like 5. And my wife lives for Disney. Oh my goodness. And I got surprised. It was like 4 months in that we were dating. She surprised me going to Disney World. And I'm thinking, all right, cool, you know, for grown adults going to Disney World. Cool. Sure, whatever. Yeah. I was a bigger Universal fan. Like, but when we went, I was just shocked at how big the damn parks are. Like, it's like 5 different parks. And this is the part that really drove me nuts, though. My wife, she didn't tell me how many parks we were going to because I thought it was all in one. No.
Ooh.
We went to all the Disney parks in one day.
That's a lot. That is
one day.
Lot.
My wife knew exactly what rides we needed to ride, which ones she didn't want to ride, which ones to get out of, go do all that. Like, I think we went to Magic Kingdom the most. Magic Kingdom was the last one because she wanted to do the parade with the fireworks and all that. But we went to Animal Kingdom. We did 2 things there. Left Animal Kingdom. Went to this other one. I like the Hollywood one, which at the time they were
Hollywood
just in
Studios.
talks. They were just in talks of making the Star Wars one. I have not went back yet to see that.
So good.
I know. My wife keeps teasing me about it. And I'm like, we're supposed to be going back on around Christmas time because we're taking the kids. I told her, I don't care. I just want to go to the Star Wars thing. That's all I asked. Let me go there. She's like, we'll talk about it. I'm like, there ain't no we'll talk about it. If we're going there. We're going to Disney. We're going to Star Wars. Like, that's all I'm asking. I'm not asking to ride rides or anything. I just want to say, hey, I've seen this. Like, this is my childhood thing. You brought me to Disney. Let me live mine. You sit here and watch Tinkerbell and all these other ones all the time. All I ask is let me go to Star Wars. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you need, and I'm happy.
Right.
Okay, we'll talk about it. I'm like, all right, we'll see you this. We'll talk about it. All right, watch me go see a stormtrooper. Yeah. So we went into, so after that part, then they got the Toy Story world. My son was on a big Toy Story kick because Toy Story 4 was coming out. And I still think that was one of the worst ones they ever did. That's just my honest opinion. Like, the story was just all over the place. I didn't know who was the bad guy, who was the good guy, and all that. But Toy Story Park was in, and I'm like, we need to take Matthew to that. And she's like, well, that's at Disney Hollywood. I'm like, so that's an incentive. We need to go there. Like,
Hollywood Studios.
But every time we had to go, it was either something happened with the COVID thing where the Toy Story one was closed. And I'm like, what a coincidence. Every time we come, something happened. No problem. Okay. What is this? The Marlowe's coming here? Yep. Shut that park down this week.
Marlowe's coming. Quick, shut down Toy Story.
Exactly. It's like, holy cow. Like, we cannot win.
Right.
I was like, man, I bought the express pass. Like, give me a break.
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy how big Disney has got, though. Like, I joke about it now. It is. And that's one thing I had to realize, too. Like I said, I haven't been since I was like 5. That was the only one that had Magic Kingdom. Now there's like 6 different parks, and there's so many different selections. Like, we went to the Animal Kingdom one, and everybody talked about the Avatar thing. Yeah. And I went at nighttime because I was adamant I want to see that part. I didn't really care for the Avatar movie, but everybody said this thing is, you at least have to go see it once. And I went at nighttime. That is the most fantastic setting that I have ever seen come to a park. It's literally like how the movie is at nighttime, where everything's lit up, the world's just all over the place. It is so freaking cool. And,
I haven't gone to Animal Kingdom yet because I told a friend I would wait to go to that one for the first time when she was with me. So that's the one Disney park.
That's dedication right there. That means you're a good friend right there. That's a good friend.
God sisters, so it works.
Hey, I love it. So, with all the books that you have got coming out and stuff, so what does the future hold for you?
Well, I will be working on, and I don't know yet at this time if this will be one book or more than one, but I'm working on a story, like I said, that takes place in the same world as the trilogy. That's that same fantasy world, but in a different part of the world with different characters. So that's something I'm in development on. I'm also working on the early stages of co-writing a new trilogy with Jennifer Sanders, who's the one that did the Fae Touch Chronicles with me, and that is dealing with Robin Hood's daughter. So it kind of, yeah. So then there's magic and fantasy in that one too, because that's how we roll. We like to have our little.
You want Disney to sign you? That's what it sounds like. I know they got a new Peter Pan movie coming out. I think on Disney Plus. I think it's the Wendy and Peter or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I have terrible about keeping up with that anymore.
My kids keep me up with it.
Locked into House of Dragon as quickly as I have. Usually I wait till things are out for a bit and I'm like, I can't get invested in something right now. I'll binge it. But now this time I'm like, oh, I'll watch this. There's dragons. Even though I'm not a huge Game of Thrones person. I should be. Everyone
so there's a funny story with that one. I know we're going to finish off in a little bit, but the funny story is I had so many friends talk about Game of Thrones nonstop, how good this show was, da-da-da-da. Season ending happened. nobody was talking good about the show anymore. Everybody was devastated. They're like, we went this many seasons. There was never a bad episode. That one was it. And like, I was just like, so why are you wanting me to watch this? Like, what in the world? You want me to be upset? Like,
You
no.
want me to suffer too?
Like, legit. Like, I was just like,
Yeah.
nope. And then I heard they just did the other one, and everybody's like, thank gosh, this saved it. It saved it. And they're like, now you need to watch it again. So now I need to watch that traumatizing episode. And then, oh, there's a new one we need to watch as well. Like, a lot of people have been talking about how crazy that one has been. I know they got that new Lord of the Rings thing. I haven't checked that out yet.
I haven't either.
It's crazy how much I tell people all the time, like, I wish people would have newer ideas to things.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing. That Obi-Wan show that they had on Disney Plus, the wait and everything was perfect. That was my climatic ending. I loved every bit of that.
I loved the Obi-Wan series. I really, really did. And I'm like you, where I'm noticing, like, I've got superhero fatigue. I've got reboot fatigue. I've got, I'm not watching these things. And it's not even that I'm feeling particularly down on them. I'm just tired of
You got more of a knowledge. You got more of it's like, all right, man, this is the 1,000th one right here.
Right.
Like, it's sad, like, superhero movies are really the only thing you can have an imagination to anymore.
Yeah, and it's just, and I love that people who really, and I was always sort of like, I watched superhero movies when I was in the mood for a superhero movie. I didn't dislike them, but they weren't like, I have to go see them. And then now it feels like there's 6 new superhero movies every year. And I know that's an exaggeration, but that's what it feels like. And now, like, on top of the superhero movies, you must also now watch these shows that they're making on the streaming platform. And if you don't watch all of these things, the next
You ain't
thing
gonna understand the movie. You ain't gonna understand the movie.
Yes, this is way more commitment for like a movie franchise than I have time for. I don't have time for this.
I will say this. WandaVision was so hard to watch the first 2 episodes. I'm just sitting there, what is this old classic, like, Wilma type I Love Betty show? And then when it went more, and I was like, okay, now I can be more interested in it. But the funny thing is, you had to watch that before you watched the Doctor Strange, because you wouldn't understand what the heck Wanda's got all this new stuff for. And it was it's I love how Disney's done that, though, because it was smart. Because now you're making them watch, okay, you've been wanting the movies, but we're going to give you a teaser of what you should look forward to and stuff like that. So I give them props on that, but their shows look like movies. And I will still say the Obi-Wan, it felt like a Star Wars movie than anything. And I didn't think anything was going to beat The Mandalorian at first.
Yeah.
That one dropped the mic, everything. Like, Mandalorian got thrown all the way down left field because Obi-Wan shot that thing so far away. When Anakin first came back, I felt like a wrestling fan. Like, I legit felt like somebody just came back. I hadn't seen since I was like 5. I was like,
it just,
my wife's sitting there watching this, like, what is so cool about him? I'm like, go the other one. I can't deal with you right now.
I'm not gonna tell you.
I cannot do this with you right now. We're not doing this. Nope. You're grounded.
I think Obi-Wan was really great. I loved The Mandalorian. There's so much out there. Like, if they don't want to write something completely original, there are also so many books and other things that have never been translated to the screen that would be really amazing. And I would rather start seeing some of those things or something wholly original than just like the 75th incarnation of Spider-Man. There's so many Spider-Mans. Like, why? And now there's like also Spider-Man multiverse. So like there's a billion Spider-Men within the universe of Spider-Man. And Spider-Man's actually my favorite hero. And even I'm like, I kind of can't anymore.
I gotta say this: Tom Holland is probably the best Spider-Man they've had. I will say that, like, he fits that part, but I agree with you. But I'm sorry, Far Away Home was probably almost in-game caliber Spider-Man movie for me to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield come back, and I loved how they promoted it like they were not in the movie. I love that. Like, people were trying so hard to get backstory things, like they could not get nothing. Tom Holland wasn't allowed to be in the public eye for like half a year because they were like, you screw this up, you're fired. We're not playing with you on this. You messed up Avengers. You ain't doing this today. Like, I remember that. Like, I saw a podcast where they were showing with Tom Holland. He said Tom had to be locked up in a room. Like, Zendaya and them had to be like in out there areas like in Hawaii or stuff like that. So no one would know what the heck they're doing or what was going on with that. Like, they made sure Tom was not spoiling anything. Like, they made the paparazzi, all of them, get away.
Out of his mouth without.
And it was funny, like Andrew Garfield, like, he was promoting something about homeless thing, and everybody's like, so this new Spider-Man movie, you got any info? He would smile. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, I'm looking forward to seeing Tom. And everybody was so pissed. They're like, man, say something. Say something. We're waiting 5 months before this film. You could say one thing. Tobey Maguire, hey, we see you're beefing up a little bit. You're playing in the Spider-Man movie? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't want to be that guy anymore. I don't feel like being in red and blue tights anymore. You see how old I am now? You think this is going to look great? Like, and it made you believe it. I'm like, maybe he's telling the truth. And then when I watched the movie, I'm like, oh, thank God. Yes.
Yeah.
It was so good, though.
Kind of did that little shout out to the fact that there are a bunch of reboots and a bunch of versions, but like, maybe now that you've done the shout out, you can do something new. Just saying. Like,
oh, you're breaking the fifth wall with that one. That's the sad part. But Christen, is there any last shout outs you want to do? Guys, the links are going to be below. You can check out all her stuff, from her book, her social medias. Don't bug her too much, because if she ain't got her coffee, leave her alone. But this has been fun. This has been absolutely fun.
Yay, I'm having a good time too. No, just it's great to be here and to chat, and track me down on Facebook. The Boundless Fantasy page keeps everything up to date. I try to keep the website boundlessfantasybooks@wix.com up to date. So if you want to track me, those are the best places to do it. I'm also around on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, although I am really not as active on Twitter or TikTok as I should be.
You and me both.
I don't have the focus for it. I've got Facebook and Instagram and the website, and I'm pretty good at all of those, but the like TikTok and Twitter and Tumblr are just like a step too much for me or something.
They're gibberish for me. It's gibberish language there.
It is. It's not my scene. You know?
Like I said, guys, the links will all be below. Check it out. Check her book. Follow her. Check out her journey. Support her. This has been awesome. And obviously, guys, she might even write a new Spider-Man movie that might be something brand new in the near future. Not giving any ideas, but hey, maybe. But Christen, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you for doing this. You're more than welcome. Come on anytime you want. Guys, like I said, the links are below. Check them out. Check everything on her out. And this has been a great, great chat, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
All for coming on today, having a great chat with us, talking Marvel, talking Lord of the Rings, talking, Star Wars, Spider-Man, all that, man. It's just awesome chat. Guys, I thank everyone for listening today. Make sure you like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to all our platforms. Hit that notification bell with all of it. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Tumblr, all social media handles. You can just find us at Buzzing With Marlowe. Obviously, you can find me on my Facebook page at Warren Marlowe. Also, guys, you can catch me on all audio platforms, just to name a few: Spotify, Podbean, Podvine, Podchaser, iHeartRadio, Google Pod, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Amazon Podcast. See y'all down the road when we have more. Later. Beep, beep, beep. Boom. We out, guys. Have a good week.